I met Gary Sipe through friends in the 80s. Beautiful man. And that was the first time that I had lived with another adult, a human, a partner. From the fashion business, I always went to the best restaurants, the best that I could afford. That's how I lived. And Gary taught me how to appreciate a roadside hamburger. That was something he gave me that I still have to this day. He's the one that taught me to appreciate boutique movies, foreign movies. Like, he's the one that taught me about Pedro Almodovar. He's the one that taught me about Lipsinka. I had never heard of Lipsinka. He taught me so many things in life that I still use and that had become part of me. I just had forgotten my roots, so to speak. And with Gary, I got to not only revisit them, but I got to enjoy them and see them in a different light. Gary and I were together and we had a very loving, close relationship. And then this was during the time of AIDS. I would see someone on a Monday, have lunch with them, and on Friday, oh, did you hear he died? And then you start thinking, oh my God, did I catch it? Did I, somehow catch it? Because at that time when we were completely ignorant and there was absolutely no cure, there was not even something to help you feel better. So he got shingles and wouldn't get the HIV test because everybody was afraid of it. It's like, if I don't know, it's not there. And he didn't have any of the other symptoms. So then, as a librarian, he knew how to do research. So he got this job with a big investigation firm. I would fly back to New York, stay with him. He would come to California, stay with me. And of course, in New York, while he was there, it was even more in your face as far as AIDS was concerned. I think he got pneumonia. He had to go to the hospital. When he went back to work, he was fired because they knew he was at AIDS. In those days, you could do that. As a gay man, you get so much of your self-identity from what you do for a living. You don't have family, you don't have a wife, you don't have kids. So what do you talk about when you meet somebody? You talk about what you do. That's who you are. Your career is who you are. And that was very true for him. It was very true for me at the time. I was my business card. That was who I was. And then when he lost that in New York, and then to try to think that he could go out and get another job, because by that time, he was looking sick. You didn't have to test him anymore. You knew it. And his company found out, even though it's supposed to be secret medical records, he had company insurance. So, of course, the company health insurance knew that he had AIDS, and so they just let him go, just like that. It was a long goodbye, very long goodbye. And I would come from California and stay with him and care for him. And then I'd have to go back to California. And he didn't want to come back to California. He wanted to stay in New York. He loved New York. And that's where his doctor was. And that's where his support system was for that. And in those days, they didn't have all the fancy medical things that they do now, like things that now can be given in a pill, in those days could only be given intravenously. His whole life became about staying alive. There was no joy anymore. There was no going out. He was weak. He was a beautiful man. He was so good looking. And all of a sudden, he was just this shell of who he had been. Even though inside, he was still there. And he could see that himself. It wasn't like somebody had to tell him. He could see he was dying. He was dying in front of his own eyes. Eventually, he qualified for some special medical treatment. Everything was on test in those days. There was nothing that they knew. He very luckily was able to apply for one of these test drug situations, which you didn't know what was going to work. But in order to get into the program, he had to have somebody with him. Somebody had to actually stay at the hospital with him 24 hours a day for 2 weeks. So that's what I did. I checked into the hospital with him, and we stayed in the same room. We stayed in the same bed, and I was able to hold him and comfort him. But I also had to accompany him every 4 hours, night and day, 24 hours a day, every 4 hours. He had to go upstairs to this special area that was an infusion area that nurses infused him with whatever the drug medicine that he was getting. And you were surrounded with all these people who were sick, who were really sick. It was tough. It was because at the end he got dementia. And I think in a way it was given to him as a gift. He would tell me about all the adventures that he had, the things that he saw and the things that he did. Even though he never left the hospital room, he was living his life. And I went along with that. You couldn't say, oh, no, that didn't happen. Because of course you knew it didn't. But it gave him so much joy. And it taught me something, because it taught me something when somebody has a dream life, don't ruin it with reality. Reality is there if you need it, but who needs it? When you're in that kind of situation, you need fantasy. So that was that. He's gone. He's dead. He's no more. That was very difficult for me. Even my family didn't accept him as my husband. They looked on him like, oh, you lost your roommate. You lost a good friend. No, I lost the love of my life. And one day I said, Mom, I'm dying inside. My heart is broken. I need support. I need understanding. And my mother said to me, she says, well, you're always telling me that I need to go to support group. Maybe you need to go to support group. That's what I did. I went once a week. It saved my life, because many times I couldn't tell people. They felt, oh, you must have it too. I'm going to get it from you. As uneducated as that is, that's the way it was. With Gary, I had that same fear, but I loved him. I didn't want to not be with him. I had no choice but to support him and be with him and take care of him and love him. And all of a sudden in the support group, I found the same love, acceptance. I learned how to accept myself more. I learned how to accept other people more. And going through a hard time that you've never gone through before, you're in a learning position. You learn how to deal with it. And so that's what I did.